funding of public education, and people promote education on the school board, on the school level, many times we find people pushing for increases which never reach the teacher level. There always is overhead, and it never gets to the teacher level. So I'm interested to know what your feeling about public funding for education is.
I just got an email. I get about 150 of them a day, and I try to read as many as I can. Since I threw my hat into the ring, I've read a lot less. It actually said something about Boise spending more on their education than Meridian does, but Meridian is producing, they are producing a more quality education, spending about a third less money than Boise is. To me, it appears that we continue to spend more and more and more on education. We think that in our heart that, that public education is a good thing, it's for our kids. We need to just throw as much money as we possibly can at it, and if we throw enough at it, we're going to end up with a good education. Well, I believe as a nation, we probably spend more on education than any other. And yet we're still not producing the types of education that we can, or that we should be able to do. So I don't know how to be able to make the teachers get the kind of salaries they want. I can share with you a little bit about, to me there's a tremendous amount, all of these problems that we have, and I'll just start off by saying this. We're worried about the economy, we're worried about states' rights, we're worried about our homes, we're worried about our jobs, we're worried about this, we're worried about that. We really have a big corruption problem. We have a lack of personal, we've somehow, as a society, we've sort of forgotten what personal responsibility is all about. We've become more about, we like to be able to think that we do things for everybody else, but we spend more time trying to advance our own agendas. And that might not be true for small areas like maybe you guys or something like that, but in the political realm, especially in the leadership roles, the people that are leading us, and you can obviously see it on the national level. If people really became educated and sort of got back to almost like when you press a reset button for everybody to just stop for a minute and just to be able to see what we're doing, it just seems like we're out of control. And so it's really hard for us to be. I'm trying to bring in too many topics at once. Accountability. If I can most directly answer your question is what needs to happen. And the problem with the accountability thing goes back to the whole personal responsibility thing. If we don't have people that have any integrity or have any honor in what they're doing, and they don't care for their fellow man, it doesn't matter how much accountability that we have, because we're going to have to transfer all the money from education or wherever else it is, of all the important things, to be able to create accountability committees, to be able to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. To me, it all comes back to that. So while we're focusing on, oh my gosh, the economy's all messed up, and this and that and the other, and the thing that's really important to me, and I have no problem saying this, is that God used to be the cornerstone of American liberty in this country. He used to be it. I mean, he was the front of everything. You got George Washington and John Adams and I mean, all of our presidents, they really had a firm reliance on Almighty Providence. I mean, everything that they did, from the time they landed in Plymouth Rock and everywhere else, and erecting crosses and all that, the first thing they did was give thanks to God. We've had 2 successful generations of kids that have had God stripped from school. We've got prayer in, 63 that was taken out, the Bible in 1980, and look what's happening. It's pretty simple to see. We have life with God and we have life without God. There's no middle ground. Well, we've experienced God as a country 232 years ago. And now we're experiencing with life without God. And I ask most people, which would you rather have? I mean, I don't see
that question.
Huh?
What do people tell you when I ask that question?
I've never asked the question before. It just kind of came out off the top of my head. Well, I just,
I'll go ahead and
you know, I mean, it's pretty simple. We can talk about whether we're a Christian nation, or we can talk about whether we're not a Christian nation, but, I mean, anybody that has any understanding or has desired to read anything about history can sort of answer that question in 2 nanoseconds.
Tom, the reason I asked the question is because in the process of getting elected to public office, the thing that you're going to be grilled on the most is how do you stand on funding for public education?
Well, I can answer that question. I actually, and this could be, I could just blow both feet off here, maybe my head off at the neck, but I really don't believe we should fund public education.
That's an okay answer. That answer's okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, the first thing is I have a constitution over there. If somebody wants to grab it, open it up to the United States Constitution and tell me where it says that we're supposed to fund public education.
Sorry, it's not.
Can anybody tell me where that is? You know, it might be in the state, I think it's in the state constitution, but it's not in the United States Constitution.
Okay, this is what will happen with that, and personally I share the same belief, and we've homeschooled most of our children. But this is what will happen. The Idaho Department of Education will question you, they'll grill you on various issues, and when you do not produce the right answers, they will put the feet on the street to defeat you, to make sure you don't ever achieve public office. Because they want the funding to continue apace. And if we have financial difficulties, if we have shortfalls in our revenue, and we end up having to cut things such as we've had to do this year in Idaho, and we end up having to cut public education, they put the feet on the street to make sure that that doesn't happen again. They start investigating new ways to raise money, new taxes, so that that doesn't happen again. To put the pressure on the politicians to make sure if they do cuts, it doesn't happen in public education.
I understand that. And, you know, I was told that it was a mistake for me to be able to fill out the question.
It was a mistake.
And I called him and, you know, or he called me and he said, well, would you consider an endorsement? I said, well, sure, I'll consider it. What do you got? And he said, well, I need you to change all your answers. I said, I can't do that. And so he was really rude and hung up on me. But no, the simple thing about this is I know, you know, I know the whole, I read about the start of the public school. I know about John Dewey. You know, I understand the whole socialist agenda. I don't know how many of you know about it, but I learned about all that, the indoctrination of the children and all that. And if, you know, we can't, it's taken 100 and some odd years to be able to get to where we are today. I'm not going to propose that if I'm in office, I think we should get rid of all social programs tomorrow. We should get rid of the public, you know, Department of Education tomorrow. That's just unrealistic. And so I need to make sure everybody understands that. What we can hope for right now is like I was saying earlier, find some way to be able to hold them accountable. Okay? You know, and that's really what we need to do. For me, I pulled my son out of school for a reason. And I'll share that with you if you want to know. The reason why I pulled him out of school is because I like to ask them what they learn at school. And the teachers, one day the teacher said, my son came home, he said, Dad, he said, we learned that the founding fathers were homosexual.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then, not even a week later, they said, they had a teacher, Dad, point his finger at me and say, evolution, I don't care what religion you are, evolution is a fact. And then, so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'll try to make this quick. So I went to the principal, or I went to the teacher, chain of command, and I said, hey, I have a friend of mine, his name is Bill Fetter. I don't know if any of you know who he is, but he's one of the nation's finest historians. And he actually got to stay, I think, in Zach's room a couple of years ago, when I had 9 pastors here speaking at a conference. And I said, I know this guy. He'll come out. I'll pay for everything. We can have an all-school assembly. They can have a Q&A session, you know, and the kids can ask all the questions they want. They said, I'm sorry, as a Christian, Tom, you know, I feel for you. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But we can't link Christianity with the history of this country. He said it's illegal. And I actually have that recorded. So it's not that